This sponge is going to represent our soil. We're going to plunge it into the bucket as if we're having a complete rainfall or irrigation event, and we're going to completely fill it up. We're going to squeeze all the air out of it so it's completely saturated. And you can see it's saturated because the water's starting to drain out of it. And you know a sponge, it's got some big pores, you can see the big holes in it, and it's starting to drain out. And when that easy water is gone, which it's nearly there, that's the point where we're reaching field capacity. The small pores are still filled with water, but the large pores have already drained away. So our sponge is at field capacity. It's quite heavy, it's full of water, and the plants can access that water for growth. So over time, the plants use a bit of energy, and I'll squeeze the sponge to start taking water out of it. So around about that point, the plants have used energy to get readily available water, and it's reached a point where there's still plenty of water in the sponge, but it's getting harder and harder for the plant to access it. They would have to use more energy to be able to get at that water. Now over time, if the soil continues to dry and the plants continue to access it and use more energy, then there's no more water coming out of that sponge. It's about as dry as it would be for the plant accessing it. Under that level, you've already reached a point where it's so dry, that's a wilting point. So stress point occurs somewhere between field capacity, when it's just stopped draining, and wilting point, where you can't get any more water out through the plant. Round about half of that is the point where it's called the stress point. So after a heavy rainfall event or a heavy irrigation event, when the water is still draining out of our soil profile, out of our sponge, that's called a drainage event. Now clearly this sponge is not that deep, the soil profile would be a lot deeper, but effectively this is what's happening when you're overwatering or you haven't had enough capacity in the sponge to accommodate a rainfall event. So managing the soil profile to be able to take account of a rainfall event is a really important consideration.